stroke impacts any age. I've seen babies with strokes.
Health officials sounding the alarm. Hesitancy during the pandemic has meant some not seeking help when a stroke hits. A dangerous decision.
Not enough has changed and far too much has remained the same.
It's been a year since the Black Lives Matter movement swept the city. Leaders say the work, it's far from over. A live look outside now. A bit of rain this morning, a surprise shower this afternoon, at least here in downtown Windsor. Still a low risk of rain, relatively cool at 22 right now. Nick Sirkovich joins us with the forecast tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. Authorities have laid terrorism charges against the man accused of killing 4 members of a Muslim community, injuring 1 in London last week. Those charges were upgraded from 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Police have described the attack as a hate-motivated crime. Thomas Dagg has more.
After the teddy bears and words of support left by the community, now 9-year-old Fayez Afzal has been released from hospital. With the boy's sister, parents, and grandmother all killed in last week's attack, the child, who was badly injured himself, is now recovering with relatives.
We're all just worried about psychologically how he might be and the long road ahead from that perspective.
And today, from the courthouse in London, came a move demanded by the community. Federal and provincial prosecutors agreed to pursue this case as terrorism. The change points to investigators uncovering more about the accused's motive.
I suspect that there's something that they have in their possession that outlines a little bit more than just an anti-Muslim sentiment.
Nathaniel Veltman showed no emotion as he appeared over Zoom while the charges were read out. He's facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 of attempted murder. Asked in court, "Those are your charges, sir. Do you understand that?" He calmly replied, "Yes, ma'am."
They've been allowed to attach it to terrorist activity, simply saying that he's engaged in this act for a political, ideological, or religious purpose to try and either scare people or cause violence.
For a conviction, prosecutors will not only have to show evidence the attack was pre-planned, but that it was intended to intimidate part of the population.
Whenever something like this happens, you know what the impact is. People feel terrorized, people feel scared.
The accused remains in custody and faces a life sentence if convicted. He's scheduled to return to court in 1 week. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
We have an update now on the situation in Wheatley. We want to take you live to the scene here right now, if we can pull that up. There's been a state of emergency that's in place. You can see the CBC's Sanjay Maru there standing as we continue to look at what's happening there. Now, this gas leak that's been involved in that situation, officials still trying to figure out what's happening in that state, trying to find the source of that leak. And as you can see, there were officials out at the scene as they continue to monitor what's going on. Now, that was something that's been in place for at least, well, nearly 2 weeks now. It happened on Wednesday, June 2nd, when officials first discovered that situation. There are people who have been forced out of their homes. They're still waiting on an update on what will happen next. Some people telling CBC News they're taking an approach of it is what it is, a wait and see approach. Now, cops, fire crews, they're all on hand trying to figure out what goes on next. The fire chief says they're doing everything they can to keep everyone safe. Businesses, doors still closed, and this all as the province starts to reopen. People are looking for something normal, but businesses forced to watch from the sidelines here. Now, that leak, again, first found on June 2nd, and sending some people, up to 27 people who were asked to leave their homes, plus those businesses as well. Chatham-Kent officials not providing an update today, but did over the weekend, saying that they are picking up low levels of gas in the area. But since they can't clearly determine a source, it's still not safe to let people back to their homes or to those businesses at this time. An update now for people who have a first dose of Astrazeneca. Ontario cutting down the number of weeks you have to wait before getting that second dose of the vaccine. It's now down to 8 weeks if you had a shot of AstraZeneca on or before April 23rd. You can now book a second dose. That second dose can be whatever you'd like it to be. The change is recommended by the Provincial Science Advisory Table because of the Delta variant. Now, that variant, it spreads faster, and a single dose of vaccine is less effective. That's why the province is allowing people to book a second dose earlier. So far, 1 confirmed case of the Delta variant in Windsor, Essex. Dr. Ahmed recommends waiting 12 weeks if you're not interacting with a bunch of people and keeping that tight circle. But there are some people who should get the shot at the shorter interval.
if I am someone who, let's say, who works for a restaurant or who is an essential worker, and there is risk of exposing myself to to people with potentially carrying a Delta variant, then I think I would prefer to get the second dose earlier rather than waiting for the full 12 weeks. So there may be some differences individually, but and again, individual circumstances are different.
Health officials are warning people not to ignore the signs of a stroke, even a mini stroke. A specialist says more and more people have been opting out of going to the hospital during COVID-19. But as Dale Molnar reports, there are symptoms that you should not ignore.
Dr. Ryan Penumbulum says Windsor Regional Hospital has noticed more people were hesitant to go to the emergency room during the pandemic. That fear is subsiding, but he says many are still putting off going when they need to. And when it comes to strokes, it's something they shouldn't do.
They may wake up and notice weakness of the hand or numbness and hope that will go away. The message we're here to spread is that don't wait.
Penumbulum says it's becoming a growing issue with mini strokes. They're painless and not as dramatic as a regular stroke, and that's why people don't take them seriously, but they should.
Every minute we delay in treating your stroke, that costs you between a day and week of disability.
67-year-old Dale Bayless knows that all too well. He lives at Bruce Villa Assisted Living Facility. He had a stroke in April. He noticed weakness in his arms, but waited 3 days before seeking medical attention.
All of a sudden I got a blinding headache, blurred vision, and I couldn't rise from my chair. If I had gotten there within 4 hours, they could have given me what they call a clot breaker.
It's called IV Alteplase. It's an IV medication we could administer. There's a fairly short time window for that, about 6 hours.
After that, Windsor Regional Hospital is lucky enough to have a specialist who can perform an endovascular thrombectomy.
So a very highly specialized physician can pass a catheter through your groin all the way into the brain and extract that clot.
That can be done within 24 hours of a stroke. The Heart and Stroke Foundation wants you to remember the signs of a stroke with the word FAST. Face, is it drooping? Arms, can you raise both? Speech, is it slurred or jumbled? And time, call 911 right away. Even if you can't talk, an ambulance will come. Take it from Dale Bayless.
I waited 3 days, and it could have been a heck of a lot worse because I lost my mother to a stroke 18 years ago.
Bayless has been receiving therapy and says he is about 75 to 85% back to normal. He expects to make a full recovery. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Some good advice there for all of us to remember. For the first time ever, Ontario has invoked the non-withstanding clause.
The ayes being 63 and the nays being 47, I declare the motion carried.
Now, the controversial bill passed late this afternoon. It will limit spending on ads like these by third parties for a year. Before an election, double what existed before. The Ford government had to add the notwithstanding clause to it after a judge ruled the original legislation was unconstitutional. The clause allows the bill to override sections of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The opposition denied unanimous consent late last week, forcing weekend sittings. Now, they also introduced more than 100 motions today to stall the passage of the bill.
I cannot see why any government would need to use this sledgehammer approach. This government didn't need to do that. They could have brought legislation that passes the smell test when it comes to our constitutional rights, but they chose not to.
There's a reason that no single other premier in Ontario history, be that a Liberal premier or an NDP premier or a previous Conservative premier, has ever hit the nuclear button the way that Doug Ford is today, because he's scared, because he's a coward, because he doesn't want nurses, doctors, personal support workers, teachers, education workers to actually speak up and hold him and his team to account.
Premier Ford was not in the legislature today to answer questions from the opposition about the use of the notwithstanding clause, but did quickly comment on the bill outside his office.
We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for people to be able to go out there and vote, and again, protecting democracy. So that's what we're doing.
It's important to note the bill does not affect or protect anyone's right to vote. It is solely about limiting the amount of money third parties can spend on ads during an election. Ontario set to go to the polls June 2nd, 2022. And travelers from Manitoba and Quebec will soon be free to travel into Ontario. The current order was set to expire on Wednesday, but the province has announced it won't be extending it. Limits on travel have been in place since mid-April. The borders will open back up Wednesday at midnight. And at the international border, uncertainty continues. Duty-free shops are struggling to stay afloat as the question of when the border with the U.S. will reopen remains unanswered. The Windsor Tunnel Shop, it's family-owned. Business is down 95%.
It's been a very tough situation for us. At the present time, I think we get around 12 to 20, maximum 10, 12, 20 customers a day. Number one, I think what we have to take care of ourselves is the health of the community, and that's very important for us. But at the same time, our business cannot survive the way it is. So eventually, hopefully, we're going to open. When is it going to happen? Maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's going to be gradual, we understand that. But this is the best we can do, because our business is only for the people going there, and you can see there's nobody going that way. So we send the letters to the employees telling them that we are hoping that we'll be opening soon, but we cannot tell you how soon. So our situation right now is to make the business survive, and hopefully things will be improving in the coming few weeks. Hopefully there is some kind of funding in the budget for the tourism, and we hope that we can get some of that to improve our situation regarding advertising, connecting to the other side, which is our customers. 80% of them are Americans. So if they don't come here, they cannot go back.
How much longer do you feel like you can keep functioning this way if the border doesn't open sometime soon?
I don't give up. I don't give up.
More charges have been laid because of large church gatherings over the weekend. Chatham-Kent police responded to 3 locations, all Old Colony Mennonite churches. 2 men were charged for gatherings in Dresden and Charing Cross. Police also went to a church in Wheatley that remains under investigation. This isn't the first time. The Old Colony Mennonite churches have been charged 16 times so far under the Reopening Ontario Act. Police say they are working to get a court injunction against the churches. It's been more than a year since Black Lives Matter protests swept the globe and landed here in Windsor. Rallies and memorials following the death of George Floyd at the hands of police. But some members of the Black community say not enough has changed, and the momentum for allyship has since dwindled.
George Floyd! George Floyd! It was very emotional. There was over 1,000 people, but it was people of all races and all cultures that participated here in Windsor.
Last summer was a whirlwind of energy and excitement. People gathered in the streets. It was really amazing to experience, you know. But gathering in the streets and creating that sort of energy is the first step of many steps of creating, you know, the sort of equity and justice in the society.
It seems that change is so slow in coming, and almost like people, it's like, okay, well, maybe if we give enough time, the Black people will settle down again and we can just move on. You know, that's how it feels in some ways sometimes.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Now!
Not enough has changed, and far too much has remained the same. And I wish I could be an optimistic voice that says, you know, there have been so many gains that have happened in the last year, but the truth is, it's just not the truth. One week, you know, everybody is gathering around, you know, the Black community. The next week, we're gathering around the Indigenous communities and the Asian communities, and so on and so forth. It's not working. Like, collectively, we need to do better as people.
You know, I mean, white people can get tired of it and leave it alone. Black people wake up every day and face it. And, you know, it seems like, you know, that it's the moment is past. If the photo op didn't happen or whatever didn't happen that people wanted, you know, to seem like they were doing things, then almost like the moment has passed.
It is trying to die off and you know, slow down a bit. But you see, that's up to us as a city, as a people. We have to be the ones to make sure that we keep this up. We have to put the work in. Justice! We want justice! Do we want it now? What? Now!
You can read more on our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Most kids, teenagers, most adults struggle with math, or we're pulling out our phones to get it done. But 8-year-old Shivam Patel has some serious skills. He came in third runner-up in a recent national mental math contest. He says his success is because of his family, who helped him along the way.
53 times 8.
424.
48 times 6.
288.
Before he was grade 1, that time we started noticing that he has skills to develop his mathematics more than usual at his age level.
597.
What is it about math that you love so much?
That I get to do and learn new stuff in UC Math.
We have like a question papers, like practice papers, and we have like so the exam consists of 8 minutes, and you have to do 150 sums, which has 50 addition, subtraction, 50 multiplication, and 50 division sums. And we put the timer on for 8 minutes and watch like how he scores, right? So initially he started with like 70 or 80, and then slowly he went up to the point about like 135 to 140 in 8 minutes.
I could do mental and abacus and multiplication and division.
Okay, so what is the difference between mental and abacus?
Abacus you have to do with beads, and mental you just have to mental math and move things with your hands.
When he reaches his highest level, he would be capable of doing multiplication, divisions, addition, subtractions for the digits that are more than like 5 digits numbers, 6 digits numbers, like that. We just hope that he excel further at his skills, not just mathematics skills, but whatever he likes to achieve. And Canada is a great country which will provide him that opportunity.
I am glad to make my country, Canada, proud.
We're all super proud of you too, Shivam. That's some pretty impressive stuff that you're able to do. I do not know how it all makes sense, but I'm glad that your family's around you, supporting you as you do whatever it is next, whatever another national competition you take on. We take a look outside here. Look at a little bit grayer than it was earlier, but Nick Sirkovich will bring us the forecast. I think it's got some sunshine in it. You see those flashes there? It was a beautiful weekend and a beautiful time for a lot of us, but those were popping up in and around Amherstburg at 2 a.m. Sunday. And we were wondering, so was Teresa, what's going on here? And we got a good idea, a sense of what it might be, but Nick is, you know, the one we throw all these questions at here. Nick, what are we looking at here? Any idea?
Well, I'm going to give you the 15-second rundown here, the physics of it there. You know, everybody knows what static electricity is, right? Well, in the same sort of way when we're talking about clouds, and you get these convective clouds, you get ice particles in the cloud. And as they rub past each other in the updrafts, they transfer charge. And that's what we're seeing right here. Now, when you get stronger thunderstorms, you get stronger updrafts. You also tend to get more in the way of ice particles that are in the thunderstorm itself. And so you've got more of them exchanging particles. And essentially, as they rub past each other, and you get more lightning. And that's all it is, the 15, 20-second version of it.
The back of the cereal box, yeah. There's probably
exactly.
diagrams you could have pulled out.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like when you pet the cat and then you touch something metal and, you know, you get zapped. Kind of the same idea, except with ice particles. So there you go.
Neat,
all these thunderstorms, even though we might only see rain at the ground, they actually all have ice particles or graupel or even hail higher up in the altitudes. They just melt by the time they get to the ground. So that's the essence of how lightning forms. And the stronger they are, often we see more in the way of lightning. We're seeing lightning here on the radar image. We're still seeing some of it push down across the Michigan area, just south of Windsor right now. So that's kind of being the story. We've got instability. We've got colder air that's coming in, and also when you tend to get sort of colder air over top of warmer air, you get this instability. This system is slowly pushing out, but we've still got a little bit in the way of thunderstorm activity this evening or heading into tonight. And then as this pushes through, I think tonight we're still going to see some down around the Windsor area, also maybe out toward London. By tomorrow morning, though, generally we're into more stable air, drier air, cooler air, but also sunshine as well. So the sunshine continues through tomorrow, save for a little bit of cloud cover into Tuesday. Generally speaking, we've got a good few sunny days in the forecast and drier as well. Not that humidex of 36, 37 that we were seeing when I was talking to you last Friday. So some pretty nice weather in the forecast there. Right now we're sitting at 23 degrees in Windsor. Again, that down from those 30s that we were seeing throughout the weekend there. Humidex, not much to speak of, about 26 there. Heading into the overnight period tonight, I have left the risk for thunderstorms down in the Windsor area, also out toward London as well. But again, fairly short-lived. Those are generally clearing out. By tomorrow, sunshine across the board, 23 degrees. That's actually a hair below the seasonal mark, and gusty as well. We're looking at wind gusts up to about 40, 50 kilometers per hour. Otherwise, pretty good looking forecast for the next few days. We start to build that heat and humidity in as we get through Thursday, and then we've got another system moving through that's going to bring some rain toward Friday and Saturday.
All right, not bad. One day at a time here, Nick.
That's right.
Thanks.
Yeah, you too.
Up next, we're going to take a look at the G7 and how it's been playing out internationally. The NATO summit got underway in Brussels today. Many Western leaders see this year's meeting as a pivotal moment for the alliance because of threats posed by China and Russia. All eyes are on the much anticipated meeting this week between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. As Evan Dyer reports, the Kremlin's past aggression in Ukraine still casts a long shadow.
Our relationship with Russia is at its lowest point since the Cold War.
If the enemy of my enemy is my friend, that ought to be good news for Ukraine, which has been trying to join NATO for years. Stephen Harper first sponsored it 13 years ago, and the Trudeau government has also offered support, sending Canadian troops to train Ukrainians against this. Russia massed over 100,000 troops on Ukraine's borders this spring, prompting new urgent appeals from Ukraine to come under NATO's umbrella. But it doesn't look like happening anytime soon. With the front line running right through Ukraine and Russian troops inside the country, there's no way to bring Ukraine into NATO without risking a major war with Russia. That essentially means that NATO has run out of room to grow. It already has 30 members, including 3 former Soviet republics. In Latvia, Canada commands NATO's forces. And others that want in, like Georgia, have little chance of persuading NATO to open its doors. Because the goal now is to keep tensions with Russia from escalating further. So Canadian officials say they've supported Ukraine, but now won't commit to back its bid to join NATO. Prime Minister Trudeau said today he's not looking to escalate tensions.
Yeah, we can't be naive about Putin's intentions. We have to figure out how to engage with each other while still being coordinated and standing up for our principles and values.
U.S. President Joe Biden is preparing to meet Vladimir Putin on Wednesday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had pleaded to meet him first, but the White House said no.
Zelensky says that Biden promised him his country wouldn't be a bargaining chip in that Biden-Putin summit, while NATO promised more training and support, which could lead to more commitments from Canada. It all suggests that Ukraine hasn't been abandoned, but also that there's no appetite to risk war with Russia by inviting it to enter the club. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Brussels.
And that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. But before we leave you tonight, we wanted you to have a look at, well, the first unofficial patio weekend of 2021 across Windsor, Essex.